Hello everyone, Coach Dave here, and for a change we have a pretty good race on our hands. I did a live stream for the FIA races, and I wasn't planning on actually doing a review of any of these races, but the final one of the evening went super well. I had a little bit of a mini breakthrough, and let's see if this can continue out on through the exhibition season. I actually managed to get a pole position. Admittedly, I'm in the second split. I could tell that because of the points available. Just over 310, I believe, for the winner. But nevertheless, still some recognizable names in this group and some very fast guys. We've got Nisman, we've got Olympic, etc. So I got a pretty good pole position time. I was 4/10 quicker than the guy in second because I managed to maximize the slipstream. Big thanks to Coach Cody. Yes, that's the Cody from Gran Turismo Sport Championships. He was in my stream and he was giving me tips while I was driving via the YouTube chat. So big thanks to him, because just some small tweaks to my driving and my brake balance, and also his advice in quali really helped me set up this awesome race. So we start on pole, we got a nice clean start. I was really nervous not to bottle it in the first couple of laps with cold tires. We all started on the softs. You have to use the hard in this race, and straight out the box the guys were right up behind me. Now the rule is, and this is important going forward in this race, if you're in pack racing, you want to be the leader of the pack. If it's just first, if there's only two of you, you want to be the guy in second, so you want to be the guy slipstreaming the guy in front. So in this case here, there's obviously going to be a huge pack behind P2, and I don't want to let him through because it's very easy to get shuffled back. So right, immediately I start to defend. He got a nice slipstream down that back straight, braking for this very difficult corner, which has a sort of gradient change in the middle, which is why it's so easy to understeer off. So you've got to get the car straightened long before the apex in order to get a nice exit, a nice apex. Now still leading the race here. I'm just trying to run the longest lines I can, nice defensive lines, and I want to be leading all the way into the pit stops, and then from there start to really push on the hard tire till the end of the race. However, Clark here is really up my chuff, so to speak, and just absolutely nailing the lines and looking for any way past, because he's also doesn't want to be the guy in second, because same for him, he can also easily be shuffled back. There is another Ferrari in this group, single filer, and he was really quick both in quali and in the previous races. So they're starting to box a little bit. Now that's the ideal situation. If you're the leader of the pack and the guys behind you start to fight for that second position in the group, then there's always an opportunity for you to pull a gap. However, at the same time, with the strength of the slipstream in this race, to actually break away is going to be very difficult. So I'm driving as calmly as possible. I'm more comfortable leading than I'm chasing. I'm trying to save as much fuel as I can, because in the previous race at the same track, the race 2 of the evening, this was race 3 by the way, so in race 2 of the evening I ran out of fuel with about 150 meters to go to the line. So I was actually overcompensating at the beginning of this race, just in case I needed more fuel at the end to either race the guy in front or pull a gap, whatever the case may be. I just wanted to try and manage my fuel consumption at the beginning while I was still leading, because that's effectively some free time that you can save fuel. The reason being, again, to pull a gap here is so difficult that they're going to catch you in any case. So on the shorter straights where you know they can't overtake you, it's best to just let them get as close as they can and save fuel. So that was definitely on my mind. Starting out on this evening, I didn't do any meaningful practice once again, but my plan was to do 2 races, and the first race was going to be the practice. I was taking a leaf out of Super GT's book. Anyway, single filer, he goes around the outside, doesn't manage to get the move done. I then try to squeeze him as much as possible, so getting any move done in that corner is very difficult. So easy to understeer wide. I did it in the previous race. He's still staying right there in my slipstream, as close as possible. I'm thinking to myself, do not give away this lead. So maximizing every single corner, running very long lines. He flashes me a little bit. Guys, I always recommend using a view where you can see the rearview mirror. In my opinion, there's much more information with your rearview mirror than there is with the radars. And also in my case, I don't use the radars in real life, so if I did use them in the game, could create a bad habit. I prefer to drive with the rear view in my peripheral vision, and it just gives me a nice idea of where they are on track. Okay, getting a nice apex for turn 1, and so far everything's going smoothly. I'm defending where I need to be. I'm keeping the group behind me in a bunch, which means they can fight at any moment. Again, feeling quite calm, mostly nailing all my apexes, but still thinking to myself, well, David, I mean, it's been like 1,000 years since you won an FIA race, so, you know, don't bottle this. Now, this section here, throughout the evening, I was really strong down this S and then onto the bridge. I was taking a slightly different line to everyone else, and then braking now just as the surface changes. I make a mistake, a crucial mistake. I run wide, I hit the wall, managed to keep it all together, but I threw away the lead. I don't even know what the feeling was, because I don't know why I made such a crucial mistake. I wasn't nervous or anything. I probably wasn't focused enough ahead of me. I was just worrying about them overtaking me. So I ran wide, totally my mistake. It was an unforced error, and now I have to gather it up as much as I can just to try and now recover something. So the one positive, there I go, down the inside against the Mercedes. I wasn't going to give up that position. I want to stay in the slipstream of the leading pack. So now the aim is to actually just stay within this group and not lose any time to the leader. So you got to plan your overtakes in a way that the leaders don't pull away from you. So you've got to minimize time loss when you're overtaking. Easier said than done, but I know that in this group of drivers, I did have a decent enough pace to at least fight with them. They weren't going to pull away from me, luckily, so which made this really enjoyable. And I have to say, the quality of the driving in this race, you'll see, besides Dirty Dave, is really high. So massive credit to all these guys. They're able to race close without really any big touches or anything. So that made it really, really fun, and also put the pressure on me a little bit not to make any big mistakes and punt them off the track, especially if you consider that we're currently racing without the FIA, well, the GT Sport penalty system, which they basically turned off. But anyway, getting back to it, I was saying that I was still happy with my pole position, and that was going to be the main positive. A win would be a cherry on top, but let's see if we can do it. So now I'm I'm in P6, Super GT's favorite position, and just trying to see if I can get away past. I want to get back towards that Toyota, but again, try and do the moves as cleanly as possible. We've got two Honda NSXs fighting here. We've got Marcus against Olympic, and Olympic I've raced against a lot. Marcus goes down the inside, pushes Olympic wide, and I'm thinking to myself, do I want to follow Marcus around the outside, or do I want to go completely to the inside? I think about it for a second, but just tap the brakes slightly to get back in the slipstream, because a move down here is highly risky. I carry a lot of speed going through this next left, and I misjudge where Marcus is going to be. Luckily, the tap that I give him actually gives him a run down the inside, and he doesn't get thrown off the track. Otherwise, I would have felt pretty terrible. Now, getting back into the slipstream, I'm passing Olympic. I have the run on Marcus as well. Keep in mind that I did just punt him into a wall. Well, didn't actually punt him into a wall, but I decided to give him enough space, because overtaking into this bridge section is exiting the bridge is very high risk, in the sense that you can easily understeer wide into the wall, which would have meant that I would have put us both into the wall. So it's better to sacrifice there. There's less risk if I just try to get into a slipstream down this long straight. This is primary overtaking opportunity, and by getting into the slipstream here, it's quite safe. You're minimizing risk. So that to me was a key move, was to actually back off from that move on the bridge, so that we can get this race done in a much cleaner style. And anyway, I felt pretty bad for punting him. I'm just so relieved that he didn't actually run wide. Getting a good run through that apex now, and this next section is basically flat in quali, but in the race, for the next double left, you just do a slight lift, just to keep the car in a tighter apex. It's quicker than trying to just burn your front tires by keeping your foot flat. So lifting through the middle there, in the long term, will serve you better for tire wear. Alright, braking now, we're going to start at the next lap. The purple Mercedes there, which is Mr. Michi, he turns out to be critical later in this race. But he was up into P2, but he started to struggle in the race going forward, and now we were starting to catch him. So in the prior races, he was very, very quick, almost untouchable, but occasionally I would see him ghosting somewhere. So he was prone to mistakes, and we were hopefully going to capitalize on that. my aim here is, now that single filer is so far in the lead, I'm just thinking now of the podium, and hopefully after the pit stops maybe we can do something to pull back the lead. But for now, that P2 there with where the Toyota is, that's my target. I probably should not have thrown away that lead. You should never throw away a lead, actually. But it is what it is. Luckily, I could keep going and I wasn't pointing in the wrong direction after the hitting the wall on the bridge. So big relief there. And yeah, just got to gather it up, really. I mean, as always, whenever you make a mistake in racing, you've got to forget about the apex you missed or the braking point that you ran wide and think about the next apex, because that mistake has nothing to do with the next corner. The only thing you can do is, if you start to overcompensate, you're going to start to make mistakes further down the lap. Alright, so Mr. Michi, he runs wide and he sucks Marcus in with him. So now I get down to sort of the inside and around the outside for this long right-hander, and I'm just out of the slipstream of the guys in front, but I've got the Nissan, excuse me. I always call the Honda the Nissan, it's because of the NSX. I got the Honda right behind me. Marcus now gets to the inside. I tried to squeeze him a little bit, but he's going down there. And now I'm on the outside of this dangerous right-hander where you can easily understeer wide. So I'm thinking to myself, give him the position, think long-term again. He may run wide and I could get the undercut, which almost happens here. He does run wide. He just gets onto the gravel, and now I squeeze as much as I can to get this tighter line through this double left, because if they do manage to stay on the inside there, there's always an opportunity for them to get you into this left-hander here. So managed to survive that one, but I have lost a little bit of time. Now starting to think about pit stops, because in the prior races I did a two-stopper thanks to the advice of Cody, but I was in the group and it didn't actually work out. So we decided to do a single stop for this one. Well, we were deciding during the chat, come out on the hard tire. Now previous races I was doing one lap on the hard tire and then going back onto the soft, but for this one we all decided, everyone who was watching me decided that it's best to just stay out, do a single stop and just trying to make it on the hard tire. So this lap needs to be pretty mega. Keep in mind that Clark in front, who's leading in the Toyota, because single filer also did a stop, he's on the softer tire, but it's worn out now. So a new hard versus a worn soft is almost the same lap time. So the undercut is not going to be that mega, but where I could maybe benefit is when he comes out the pits, the first couple of corners on those hard tires are going to be quite tough. So if I can at least maintain my pace against him here, maintain the gap, when he comes out the pits he's going to be slower than me in the first few corners, and maybe I can catch the gap up. So this lap here is super important. You can see single filer, if you look carefully there, he was actually still trying to keep his tires warm on this out lap. A little bit of lag there. Need to sort out my recording equipment still, whatever. He tried to keep his tires warm, because on these hard tires it's not that easy to maximize on the out lap. Prior to this, in between the second race and this third race of the evening, I decided to do all my practice on hard tires just to get a feeling for them. It's always easier to go from a hard tire to a soft tire, because you're like, whoa, so much grip now. But to go from a soft to a hard is not as easy, because you're trying to brake at the same points you were with the soft, and you can find yourself running wide. And I was absolutely guilty of that in the laps that come up next. But again, this out lap seemed to be mostly okay. However, single filer was absolutely flying. He was pulling away. So I still had some hopes of winning the race, like a little tingling dream, but that was no longer a possibility. But we still have 3 or 4 laps to go here, and now it's a matter of just nailing the apexes and trying my best to avoid the pack behind us. As you can see there, they get into a bit of a rough and tumble against each other. I'm not sure if they put it a lap before me or not. I didn't really care. It was just about getting as close to P2 as possible, because at least then I can get a slipstream, because at the moment I am the slipstream. I am the meat that these guys are looking for, the blood that they're hunting for. So we actually do manage to close the gap slightly to Clark. And now I'm almost just in the slipstream, and it's a matter to see if he can make a couple of mistakes in the next few corners. Maybe I'll get into the slipstream for that long back straight. So here we both seem to miss the apex. So David, once again, you really bottled there. I know I run wide there, but that actually doesn't make much of a difference to the lap time, to be honest. It's quite forgiving through that section here. Now going down towards the bridge, this is my favorite section of the track. To be honest, this isn't my favorite track in the game of all the fantasy tracks. I just don't know why you'd line a fantasy track with Armco barriers, which takes away from the vibe. They could have made this rocks or something. Anyway, whatever the case is. Right, so now we are in the slipstream, and it does seem to be that he is struggling on these particular set of tires. So now it's a question of, can I get up to P2? We have 3 laps to go, including this one, and I need to absolutely maximize every single apex to make sure I can get close to him. However, the plan at this point here, we decided was to nudge him and bump draft him all the way to the leader, because even at this point here, when the leader has no slipstream, even though he was driving incredibly well, there's maybe a chance where we could get closer. It seems though that the Toyota is quite fast in a straight line, just by the way. I don't have any data to back that up, but I'm sure one of you in the comments will let me know if you're still watching at this point. Alright, braking around 150 meters. Now we've got to straighten up the car at the apex to try and get on the power as early as possible. I managed to gain a chunk of time there on him, and now it's a matter of slipstreaming all the way to the start-finish line, not messing up the final turn, and hopefully when I start the next lap, 2 laps to go, we can start to bump draft to the leader. Let's see what happens. Okay, so a little bit of understeer through that long left-hander. I maybe should have lifted a little bit earlier to get on the car pointed a bit straighter. Braking just at the left signpost there, just after 150 meters. I'm still getting a little bit too much understeer for my liking, so you could see that I was tapping the throttle quite aggressively to help with rotation in the car. Not the best driving technique, but we're hanging on for dear life. We're trying to do whatever we can here. Alright, now getting quite close, braking at 100 meters, getting a nice apex down the inside. Ideally you want to be on the green there, but so what, I'm in the slipstream now, and now I can really start to think about bump drafting him. My concern though is that he's struggling a little bit more than me on these tires, but hopefully the combination of my bump drafting will negate that difference, and we can catch the guys in front, or the guy in front. Keep in mind though that the pack behind, they're also hunting us, and if Clark is slowing me down too much, I'm going to have to get a move in front of him to try and get in front of this pack. So I am nudging him now, luckily no touching there, and onto the bridge I get an okayish apex, but now firmly in the slipstream, and it's just, let's see if we can bump draft. This is a classic move in karting. Well, I don't know these days if it's possible because of the new nose cones that they have, but back in the day, if you were in 3rd place and the leader was a little bit further ahead and you were fighting with P2, you had a choice. You can either fight for 2nd, which is 1st place loser, or try your best to get in front, to push him towards the leader, and then start a 3-way fight, and hopefully you come out on top. So that corner there, I missed the apex slightly, but it's okay because it gives you a run down this straight. The only problem here is I didn't want the run. I wanted to be able to be right in his slipstream, right up his exhaust, so I could push him the whole way down. Now we got Marcus, who's come back at us. He must have dropped a little bit during the pit stop period, but he's now back and in the fight. I go down the inside. I decide I'm going to be the meat in this sandwich. I'd rather be the leader here. Go as wide as I can, so I get the undercut. Then I try to go as wide as possible, and this part of the race is unbelievable. The driving from everyone here is really top quality. Staying close but not touching. I actually tap the brakes here slightly because I'm so worried of pushing him wide and into the wall. Marcus then nudges me to get the run, which helps me get the jump. And now just keep in mind that the idea of a victory is long gone unless a single filer makes a mistake. Here, the purple Mercedes that I mentioned, he was ghosting on the final corner, and he forced me to lift off because I didn't know if he was going to reappear. And this creates this 3-way side-by-side action going into turn 1. I'm thinking to myself, do I actually go for the move, or do I give up the positions? Somehow everyone gives each other enough space. I managed to come back out in 3rd, so I haven't gained, I haven't lost, but Marcus has gained big time. So credit to him. He went from 4th to 2nd, and now we start the final lap, and it's just a matter of maximizing my result here as opposed to just settling. We still got Clark behind us, but he runs very wide there and loses a lot of time, and now it's going to be a 2-way fight. Again, the idea of bump drafting to the leader is long gone, so this is officially the fight for the podium. Going down through the bridge section, we both seem to nail our apexes here. No, David completely misses the apex there. and I lose a little bit of time, but again, this can help with the slipstream down the long straight. If you're too close to the car in front and you have a long straight in front of you, that can really compromise the run or the momentum, the slingshot that you can get going down the straight. So you always, if you do have a long straight and you plan on overtaking the guy down that straight, you want a little bit of space so you can get the slingshot past. That being said, I was a little bit far here, but this straight is so long that maybe I can get close enough to have a move down into the right-hander at the end of this long straight. So we exit, we're still in the slipstream. Then that Honda is, I almost called it a Nissan again. That Honda is really fast, but in the slipstream, the Ferrari is faster. Okay, so we're coming down now, going through this long right. We still have a threat behind us. The pack is not far behind. Gonna try and go for the inside. He defends it really well. He actually says thanks for not going down there. I then fully plan to do an undercut, the same move that I did earlier in the race. It almost works out, but he doesn't run as wide this time. So now we've got to squeeze him as much as possible through this double left, and then I'll get the inside for the next right, which is minimum distance, which will hopefully give me a run. However, that doesn't happen. He manages to stay down the inside, and effectively, without me wanting to crash, I concede the position and realize that it's not going to happen. So in the end, I finished P3 in the second split. I was actually really happy with this result. Yes, I threw away the lead. That was a shame, but we can hopefully recover it next time. Thank you so much to my sponsors. Thank you so much for watching. My Patreon members, you guys are all legends as always. And I'll catch you around the next lap. Peace.